According to Adam Schefter, the NFL is set to release its schedule not this Thursday, but the following Wednesday. But have no fears, Broncos fans, because I have broken down and devised the perfect schedule to get the Denver Broncos to the NFL playoffs. If you're new to this channel, I'm Ben, diehard Denver Broncos fan, and I'm just loving this ride with all of y'all. If you like the Broncos too, it'd help me out a ton if you would like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments what you think about this schedule and what you like, what you don't like, and let's break it all down as we dive in here to the Broncos 2024 schedule. Like I said, this is coming out next Wednesday. I'll be doing a live show, and I'll give you my official prediction there with a couple fellow Broncos fans and NFL dudes, but let's break it down. A couple caveats here is that I devised this schedule and dreamed it up and think it is the dream scenario to get us to the playoffs with a few caveats. And the first is that Bo Nix is our starting quarterback. And I think I've lined it up kind of to go against a conventional, like the narrative in Denver about who we want first and all that kind of stuff, so that he doesn't have pressure on him, and so that it's like set up for all of our team success. So a couple of things right off the bat is that the Denver Broncos historically are absolutely dominant those first 3 weeks of the NFL season when they're playing at home. We know that we're really overemphasizing that 5280 that we're playing at altitude. If you've ever gone on a tour at Invesco Field, highly recommend you do it. It's really cool that right outside the visitors' locker room, there's like a sign about like lack of oxygen and be wary of it. And now it's like written all over our uniforms. And so you're sucking wind and you don't have a full, like you don't have multiple padded practices like you used to in the NFL. And so you come into the season and you're more gassed, especially when you start the season on the road. So I think it's really important that the Broncos get maybe one of their tougher opponents at home early on in September, hopefully taking advantage of the fact that folks aren't, totally up to playing at altitude. So our home opponents this year, we got the Colts. You can see on the screen here all of the opponents that we have, and everyone and their mom is talking about how much they want Russell Wilson to come back to Denver early on. I think that's a really stressful situation to put Bo Nix in, and right off the bat to put that comparison against him. I think he's up for it, but I would love if we kind of worked him into that a little more. And really leaned into the fact that whoever comes here week one is going to have a hard time playing at altitude. And so which of these teams makes sense for us to open the season? And so my prediction and my hope would be, let's not make him play Russell Wilson right off the bat, because if you lose that game for whatever reason, whether it's we're kicking a 64-yard field goal at the end of the game like we did Russ when he went back and tried to beat the Seattle Seahawks a couple of years ago, you just don't want to put Bo Nix behind the eight ball where if he loses, he's automatically feels like a loser, and momentum is a legit thing. We saw that in our 5-game winning streak. So let's start the momentum strong. I think if the Falcons come to Denver as the home opener, play that at the 2:05 tip or kickoff like we're used to. And I think you really lean into Kirk Cousins not knowing that system yet. And that was a decent team in the NFC who was a quarterback away, but they went out and drafted Michael Penix. And so you hope there's some weirdness there. It's a team that Payton is really familiar with, playing in the NFC with them and facing them 2 times a year. So I think that with the home field advantage, even though that's a tough game, I think Falcons coming here right away would be a great way to open the season. Yeah, it's not as sexy as opening against Russ, but I think that's a win right there. And I think other times in the year that could be a harder game if they catch their flow and aren't building the plane as much. That could be a tougher game later in the season. So let's open up with the Falcons. Now let's look at some of the away games that we have here. We have a difficult away slate. We got a couple on there that, depending on when we play them, could be a layup. But let's look here. So what I think is really important, again, with that caveat that Bo Nix is starting, I want him to go to a team that doesn't have a crazy defense. So I don't want to be playing, obviously, the Ravens early on. I don't want to be playing, I want him to have a chance against a porous defense. And so if you look here, the Chargers are the 28th worst total defense with the 30th worst passing defense. And then the Seahawks are another away team we have that is low on this list and also has a really porous run defense. And I think Sean Payton is going to ground and pound with Javonte coming back off of that horrible 2-year injury, with Audric Estime, with our Watson, our undrafted free agent. So I'm excited about playing the Chargers and playing the Seahawks, because I think those defenses, especially with Pete Carroll leaving the Seahawks, I think that's going to be a bigger rebuild than they think. So the next thing I want to do is after we beat the Falcons week 1, I want to go away and I want to go and play this newly revamped Seahawks team that already was a bad defense and now they lost their identity and are rebuilding. Let's play the Seahawks week 2, and I see that being 2-0. We almost beat them with Russell Wilson 2 years ago when they were way better, and we have better places or better pieces all around. I think that's a porous defense that Bo Nix can really shine in. We're 2-0 then. Then, like I said, another porous defense, and basically a home game here is let's go to Los Angeles Chargers and give Harbaugh, let him take that L on his way out as we go and play another rough defense. That team is rebuilding and doesn't really have his identity yet, and there's no way it'll have its identity by week 3. I think right there, it's not out of the question to say we're 3-0 after that, and we've only played one home game. Next, let's take on Russell Wilson. Now, if Bo Nix can be 3-0 and he's feeling good, he's played a couple rough defenses, he's played at home. Now we're still in that beautiful month of September where we have that crazy advantage of the altitude. What I would love is what if this is the Thursday night game? We know that home teams have a crazy advantage when it comes to playing home games on that short week. And so if you go from playing in LA, just hop on a quick plane ride back to DIA, and then you're just playing a couple days later, I think Russell Wilson coming here on a Thursday night sets us up really well for success because it's September. They're not going to be in crazy shape. I also think if you play the Steelers much later than week 4, there's a chance Justin Fields is a starting quarterback, and I really want a chance to play Russell Wilson. So give me Russell Wilson week 4 on a Thursday night, which then gives us a little bit of a mini bye. So give us, that's the last game we're going to play in the month of September, and now we go to Sean Payton's month. And Sean Payton owns the month of October. Last year, our 5-game winning streak started in October, and he's one of the winningest, actually the winningest coach in the month of October with, anytime you're on a list with these guys, Bill Belichick, Lambeau, Cowher, Hallis, who's the Bears are named after, and Don Shula, like that's a really good thing. And man, he is good in October, and that's because his offense has started to take shape and they get it. And, he talked about how it's more than just the guardrails on the offense. So now, after that mini bye and the magic month of October, now give me the Kansas City Chiefs on 10 days rest, and let's play them early on. I think this is also going to be crucial because they're going to be, looks like a pretty significant suspension for Rashid Rice, their wide receiver who Patrick Mahomes really loved, because not only did he get in a drag racing accident, it sounds like he just punched a dude in Florida, which is not ideal. You don't want to do that. So give me the Kansas City Chiefs off that mini bye, 10 days rest. I think that is going to be a win and a great, great sign for us. Also, hopefully Mahomes hasn't had time to gel with all of his new receivers, with Xavier Worthy, with Hollywood Brown. And we know that even Tom Brady on those dynasties, it was early on in the season is when they really had their hiccups and bumps. You don't want to meet them later in the year. So give me the Chiefs at home, 10 days rest. Feeling good, make them come here. Then let's go ahead and go on Sean Payton's little revenge tour. Let's go out to New Orleans. Just kind of be really interesting there to see Sean Payton go back. We have a lot of Broncos on this team who played in New Orleans. I think, they're going to be much improved as well. But I think Sean Payton will know that, and that's going to be a real big game that he has circled on his whiteboard. Let's do it after we're riding high, after beating the Chiefs at home again. And then let's just head in. If in those first 6 games we can have 4 or 5 wins, we're going to be feeling really good about ourselves. I think this is one of the toughest games on our schedule. But when you have 4 or 5, and if you're 6-1, or if you're 5-1, 4-2 at this break, and you lose to them, it's not as heartbreaking as if we played them and we're all of a sudden you're 1-5 again. That's a hard hole to dig yourself out of. And so I like playing them because that's going to be our toughest game. Let's get it out of the way when we're 5-1 or 4-2. Then let's come home again. Let's play the Raiders. It's time to break that streak. Sean Payton, that's one of the streaks he did not break. He broke tons of them, but he did not break our losing streak to the Raiders. That's going to end because we're going to play them at home. They're playing Gardner Minshew and a tight end, and it's going to be a nightmare. So I have a good feeling about us at home. So even if we lose on the road to the Ravens, we come home. there, and we beat the Raiders. So now we're talking right there. We are, I would say, like we are 5-3 at worst. Hopefully 6-2 there. Then give me a bye week. So, we've had one of the toughest games of our schedule out of the way, and we haven't been loaded up on home games there. We get a nice little rest here right at week 9, and I think that plays itself out for how I build the schedule at the end. So then let's go on the road and beat Joe Burrow and the Bengals. This is going to be another really, really tough game on our schedule, and I like playing it after a bye week. I think Sean Payton off of a bye is a much better coach, and so that's a great system. So I like playing the Chiefs off of a mini bye and then playing the Bengals off of a full bye, and I just think it gives us a better chance to go in and succeed. And as we're talking about that playoff push, what we really want to do is we want the division leader to make the playoffs, and then we want everybody else in that division to just, totally poop the bed. And so it'd be great if, let the Ravens win and run away with it, and then let's beat up on Pittsburgh, let's beat up on the Bengals and make them take those L's on the way out. So we are away there. And then easiest game on the whole schedule is playing Bryce Young at home. And let's play him here. Let's hope it's just a snowstorm and we make his tiny little Steph Curry body come here and feel us, and we win there. And then let's start a little road trip here. Let's go back to Nathaniel Hackett, and let's go to New York Jets, and hope by then Aaron Rodgers is in another darkness retreat. Maybe he's a vice president, or maybe he's just tore his Achilles again, although that might happen game 1. But I think if the train could really come off the tracks, and playing them later in the season is a good thing. And so then now that we're kind of over on the East Coast again, let's just chill out there in New York and stay out on the East Coast and fly down to Tampa and just kind of hope that an aging Mike Evans, has maybe peaked and we can beat him in Baker Mayfield. But this will be a tough little stretch here to go and play 2 games on the East Coast. The big hope for East Coast games, and as we look at the schedule release next week, we want those being later games. We really struggle in that 11 o'clock time zone when we're going east, and I'll share some of the stats on that when the schedule actually is released. But man, that's when we got mollywopped by the Dolphins, was having to go east at that 11 o'clock game when players are used to being asleep. All right, time to come home, young men. Let's come back home. By week 14, I hope we just get dumped on, and there's so much snow, and Jerry Jeudy is there and just a diva, and Deshaun Watson has spent plenty of time just working his body at the masseuse. He's probably going to be injured by then. That's a really formidable defense, but I like playing the later in the year we play him, the more I think things could unravel, and I like that. I just cannot wait to hear Mile High Stadium when Jerry Jeudy has a drop, in week 14. Then let's do back-to-back home games, and Richardson and the Colts. Let's, probably going to be some injuries there again. And so playing the Colts, I like having 2 home games back-to-back there later in the season. It's going to be tough. Both of these games will be tough as their teams vying for playoff spots. But I think the later in the year we play them, the better it'll be, because Bo Nix will have hit his stride, hopefully, and have learned before he has to play some of the toughest defenses. I love him playing some of these easier defenses early and then playing the harder ones as he's actually learned it, when he has some confidence in the fact that he can play. Then let's go back to Oakland. That's going to be, or to Las Vegas, and play the Raiders. Tough game to play there, but I think by this point you're right in playoff contention. And so when these games in the AFC matter, I think he's already broke the streak and we beat him at home here. And so let's go and do it there. And then end our season by playing Patty Mahomes in Arrowhead, and just hope by then that perhaps they have the division locked up and they rest guys and we could win there. But I just think, looking at this schedule, I find it really hard to come away with only 5 wins. Very curious, which of these am I totally off base, or do you like it as that? Make sure you are staying locked in and subscribe so you don't miss a single beat. Sorry, I was way over the time I usually do, but Broncos country, giddy up.